Oh, I am so excited to be doing this walkthrough today. Thank you, Jen. Jen sent me a box of goodies today. She continues to clear out her collection, and this I had no clue was going to be there, and this I had just talked to Patrick about, saying this is probably one of the decks that have been on my list for the longest time. And it was just, I don't know, I just don't have a lot of patience, and when I have to order things overseas and it's going to take forever to get here, I don't know, I just don't tend to order them. I know it's terrible. I have to stop that because there's a lot of great decks, you know, obviously not on Amazon or some other place that's going to be quick to get it there, but I just don't have a lot of patience. But this has been on my list forever because it feels like Chronicles of Destiny, where you have a bit of a Lenormand feel, and there's definitely light and shadow, and I have seen walkthroughs of this, but it's been a while because it's, you know, I would go back just before I was going to buy it and kind of walk through it, but I am so excited about it. The box is really beautiful. It has some of the cards on the box, and it says on the back, there's a little verse: may these cards, reflection of your soul, guide you to the answers who already sleep in you. How awesome is that? And then it has obviously another language, because this is by Celia Melville, and this is, oh my goodness, is it from France? French or Italian? French, I believe, printed in China. That's not good because I didn't order it. I think it's France. Let me check. France. I should know that. I mean, that wouldn't be Italian, but I have been wrong before, so I thought it would be better to check. Now, I will put a link in the description box below, because she does have a video on how she made these, and it's wonderful to watch. I believe it's just in French. I don't think there's even English subtitles. Maybe subtitles, but it's really neat to see the process of how she created these. So I'll put that description, or that link, in the description box below. So again, it comes in this really nice tuck box. It has number 231 and her signature on the inside, and inside the book it has a section with her signature and the number as well. The booklet is very small. You have it in French and you have it in English. This type of deck, you know, doesn't really need that much, to be honest. They have Trust Yourself, how to do before the reading, shuffling your cards, putting your question down, whether you want to use reverses, and then it shows a 1 card, a 3 card with a couple options. It could be the problem. It could be the problem, the situation. This is kind of card 1, this kind of got mixed up a little bit. Oh, 1, 2, 3, I see. So it could be the problem, advice, and probable outcome, past, present, future, situation, what to do and what not to do. And then it has this really great spread of reflection, shadow, and armor. And I definitely want to try that at the end of the walkthrough. And then it just has keywords, because it's very Lenormandy. We have spark of life, the woman, the man, the woman, the men, I'm assuming it would be the man. But see, you have things like fear. We'll go through these, but just some keywords for it. But I personally think that that's enough to get you going with this style of deck. And so there you have it. It's very lovely, very small. I mean, we're talking about a total of a few pages. But at least it has some keywords for all the cards. And then I love that it includes a special spread. So I quite like that in these types of decks. So that's that. They had a little ribbon to help you get the cards out, which is lovely. Again, this is 56 cards, I believe. Let me look. 57 cards. What do we see up here? Tainted water caresses paper and slowly shapes are created. Little dots or curves. The apparition reveals itself and comes alive. It moves under the water, slowly dancing. And when suddenly paper comes out of its bath, contracting under the whispers of the air. The chimera stands still forever. It awaits the look that will give it life and transform into symbol its illusional nature. Because these are tea-stained papers. Every stain awoke a different heartbeat in me, each whispered to my ear, and it's under my pen that I tried to awaken their meaning. Look, listen, feel. For you, like for me, they will undress and dissolve your illusions to tell you their secrets. So what she did, so we'll take a look at these a little closer. They're beautiful paper. I want to say the paper is a little bit thinner than, say, the Medea Lenormand, which has that gorgeous matte feel. But it is gorgeous. Matte beautifulness with gold gilding on the sides. Let me stick this here and zoom it in here. I'll tell how they shuffle obviously better once I give them a good shuffle. So you can see that they have a number at the top. They have a title both in French as well as in English. I really love that she added the English on there. And it's not it's not obtrusive, it's not obnoxious or anything. It's just right down in the same thing, which is really lovely. So you can see these staining. She tea stained the paper and then kind of used what she saw in the paper to help to create whatever that card was going to be. So here we have the spark of life, which is 0. It's that primitive life, innocence, very fool-like energy in terms of the keyword. Here we have the woman, which, we can see kind of the torso of a woman with some, inked here and almost like a mandala, lotusy here, kind of the curvature of the breasts underneath. And then we have the man card. It says men in the guidebook, but it does say man on the card, which is good. Again, we have a very chiseled male figure there, but it's quite clear. Oh, can we talk about the backs, which are absolutely stunning? Love. This is a pure love, which is quite interesting here. We've got this purity of the sky, and we almost have like a kite string or such, but it looks like that to me, but it's connected to the sun. It's beautiful. Love, absolute trust, giving and sharing. The gorgeous Hermit card. This is about a return to nature. Can be loneliness, a pilgrimage, very hermity. Here we have the mountain, which is obstacles like we would see in Lenormand. Love it, love it, love it. You can see though, see how we have the ink stains here? And then she's got her ink lines here, inked lines. And you can see where that was part of the stain and then it turns into the mountain. So she used the arbitrary stains of the ink to create a very specific symbol. I think it's amazing. Here we have fear, instability, doubt, terror, locking of self, loss of boundaries, and immobility, kind of being paralyzed by fear. Again, love the fact that we have some, shadow cards. I hate to say negative, but the fear is negative. But like obstacles aren't always negative. Sometimes it reroutes us in the direction that we need to go in. Here we have choice. I love the idea of choices. It looks like many different doors to go through. It's kind of like the path card in Lenormand. Here we have the Phoenix for fire, action, painful transformation. Very interesting. New cycles. I love that. Here we have the beautiful stag here. The deer is about guide and support. Doubts clarified, successful test, sun energy, beautiful. Here we have the dance for creativity and movement. You can see we're looking at a woman from the top of her head. Here's her hair, and it's almost like her dress is swirling out around her. It's stunning. Just absolutely stunning. Artistic expression. Here we have the armor for protection and strength, but isolating, but it still has that bravery, and it can be also a little bit of aggressiveness with the armor. Here we have refuge. rest after effort, a return to self, a chosen isolation. It's kind of a stepping back. I don't see the image as much about refuge. I feel like if she was in a refuge, she wouldn't be covering up her breasts and kind of, you know, she wouldn't be that, but she's kind of curling inward, almost in a fetal position, which could be that going back to the womb, just kind of going back to a place to kind of regroup maybe before going out, which is a little bit like the Tower card in Lenormand. Love the owl for wisdom, knowledge, intuition, inner listening. I love that on the middle of his, like the third eye. Here we have fish, kind of like what we have here, but we have the duality card. It can be loss of balance, need for opposite points of view. So both light and shadow here, which is quite interesting, going in two different directions, misunderstandings, but it can also be compromise. So it can, you know, duality can go in a lot of different ways, I think, depending on the question. But that's kind of light and shadow, which you know, really everything has light and shadow in it. But I'm just talking about in terms of balance for the deck. Many of the keywords there, though, are a little bit more in shadow. So I would look at that one as being a little bit more in shadow. I'm trying to make sure I have all. When I do decks like this, I do like to kind of pull certain piles to see kind of the balance of the deck by the time I'm finished with the walkthrough. Here we have the fall. This is definitely in shadow. Failure, loss of boundaries, feelings of impurity, problems with the law even. But we have a fall in a negative sense. Again, you could read that, didn't have to read it negatively, but in terms of the keywords. I love the edge of the forest, a choice of the unknown, courage, thinking outside of the box, a fear of confrontation. So it can be, again, mixed. I don't see that, to me, as like walking the wall. I think that's amazing. Serenity, beautiful. Inner peace, standing still, listening, connecting to self. It's right next to the tree, like that's me. It's all about me. Here we have the message, being open to, receptive to communications, which is gorgeous, kind of like the bird card here. I love the match. It's a trigger. Light that match. It's a push to action. It's an awakening. It's a time for a change. I love that. I love it. I just love it. It's a call to action. Transformation, growing, evolving, you know, it's a butterfly, would make sense to us. Love it. Here we have justice. I quite love this because look at that. Connection to the law, moral, integrity. We've got the scales that we're used to, and the beautiful kind of the dress becomes, the ink or the tea stain becomes part of her dress in a beautiful way. I love this too. This is the rice bowl. It's a bowl full of rice. When the yin yang sign here, a little lotus here. We've got the little cherry blossoms. Is that abundance and happiness and balance. I love the idea of a full rice bowl for abundance and that kind of energy there. I think that's wonderful. Here we have the boat. About travel, so similar to Lenormand. It's a mobility, movement, travel. I love it. Here we have the horse card, which is about arrogance, pride, insolence, vanity, and reduced vision. I don't really see the horse that way. I probably won't read the horse that way, but you've got a big sun behind it, and you've got a strong, powerful horse. I don't see the horse that way. But, you know, you could, that would be a shadow card if you wanted to read it that way. Here we have the B for work and effort and achievement, which makes complete sense. We almost like a flower, the tea stain made like a flower, and then here we've got turning that pollen into this kind of honey over here. Look at this one. I love this. Manipulation, excessive trust in others, use, loss of self, dehumanization. Gorgeous and powerful. Here we have the anchor card, link, landmark, stability, calm, boundaries, balance, connection. So it has an anchory Lenormandy with a little bit filled out to being a little bit more oracly, because this is an oracle deck. I love it. Here we have the mandala for refocusing, return to self, selfishness if it's in shadow. I think that the author did a good job with the keywords, even in all of the cards, seeing both light and shadow, although some are more specifically shadow than others. So there's a lot that, you know, it has multiple, which is how I think a deck should be anyways. All cards can be in light or shadow. Here we have letting go, abandonment, loss of control. It can be therapy, letting go of things, release of tension. So again, see, you can be both. There's that sense of abandonment that's going on, or we can have a sense of letting go because we need to let go. But you can see the hand. I don't know if you can see that right away, but there is in the hand, there's stuff, water or so in the hand, and it's spilling out. They're letting go of that energy that's being held in the hand. It's really beautiful. Here we have the shadow. I mean, how awesome is that? I don't remember seeing this card. This is self-sabotage, weakness, hidden truth, phobias, psychological conflicts, darkness, repression. Who knows what lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows. Old-time radio show. Here we have money, so these are, we have coins here, reward, potential, wealth, value, resources. Here we have a health card for physical need, illness, healing, recovery. You can even use this along the lines of the tree card in Lenormand is about your sense of well-being. So if you don't read for physical health, you can certainly use this for mental health. This is sort of where you would check in with your sense of well-being. Here we have the secret. Look at that. Inner garden. We always have this woman here, but look at, we've got like this keyhole where there's so much more that is hidden inside. I quite like that. But she has a trust in others as well as poison. So, you know, it could be deceitful things like what's going on in the surface that you don't know could be good or bad. So we have that sort of mix of either. Ooh, look at this. So there are spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So spring is the awakening, summer as the life, warmth, exuberance, and it has spring as childhood, summer as teenage. We have then the autumn card here, which would be harvest, maturity, and then we have the older age and the rest and the coldness and hibernation of winter. I absolutely love these cards. These are one of the reasons I wanted this deck was for these cards, because they're absolutely stunning. And yes, I'm using absolutely many ways. Almost looks like we have like new moons and full moons here, but this could be suns and moons as well. I don't know, but because we think about that, well, that's spring and summer. We've got that different thing going on here. I love these cards a whole lot. Oh, look at this. I love the turtle. Oh, now we're out of whack here. Let's pull it back. Here we have slow down, backward, thoughtfulness, patience, time. It's going to take some time, moderation, and take time to analyze things. I love it. A beautiful fox card, beautiful. Dexterity, intelligence, independence. It does have trick, but it's got a lot of other good things too. So I love that. That's kind of a mix. It can go either way. It could be tricky situation, but you know, it's also about intelligence. Here we have the gorgeous family tree here, a blood relationship, hereditary ancestors, so much you could do with that. It's so sad to see elephants in conflict, but we can see these are butting heads, right? They're clashing horns. So opposition, jealousy, thirst for power, competitiveness. It's very much the 5. So what is the energy of the 5s? And I love that it's 41 and 4 plus 1 is 5. Just the little things that make you happy. And I think I have these all whopper-jawed now. Whopper-jawed. But then we have conflict, but then we have community. See, so how balanced it is. That sense of community, union, sharing, coming together. Love it. Then we have a lie, crossing the fingers. You know, you think, oh, if I cross the finger, I don't tell the lie. Illusion, falseness. You know, basically what it sounds like, right? Here we have infertility. This is interesting because if you look to the very first one, which I now probably have out of order, I have to say right away with gilding, it kind of provides a little bit of a lip, which experience tells me goes away with some shuffling, but it makes it sometimes hard to separate them. So here you can see the spark of life as being kind of this continual circle, but here it's kind of jagged and it's kind of broken up. Where we see more like growth along the sides, we see kind of dry, and it's not really, looks like at fertile ground for anything to grow on. So this is about loss, very much like the lost figure in geomancy, and not in looks, but just in meaning. Here we have the gift. I love that, holding up this beautiful little pearl, perhaps. It almost looks like a seashell here, and it's like a pearl. That's just what I see. Sharing, talent, happiness, celebration, good things with a gift card. Let's see, let's put that back. Here we have conditioning, change, shackle, and loss of identity. Now see, I don't see that except for if you think about a bonsai tree, it's kept in a very small container so that it can't grow. Bonsai trees can, you know, are full, they're not like special trees, like they're actual, let's say you take a full-size tree. Now obviously there are some that are not, but there are that you can have use littler bushes and plants, but they're literally the act of constraining the tree into a very small space, you know, so that it can't grow, and snipping and snipping and snipping and keeping it forced into the form in which you want it to be. So that does certainly make sense. Even though the bonsai trees are so amazingly beautiful, it is beauty that comes out of a restructuring and kind of forced not to be what its natural look would be. So that's quite interesting. Love this dispersion. Circulation, bursting, launch into the unknown. Can also be about forgetting. It has a keyword there, but that is beautiful. Love dandelions. Here we have break, cutting loose, disunity, obligation to let go, strong and violent act. It's a little bit different because, you know, we do have the letting go card, which of course I'm not going to be able to find. These are really difficult. Hopefully that will loosen up with some shuffling, but they are a little difficult to separate. But I know that that's from this lip that created by the gilding, and that will loosen up with probably just a couple good rifle shuffles in my past experience with rifle shuffling. Okay, we're probably not going to find it. But we had the letting go card, which could also be about therapy, where this is more about a break, something that kind of cuts loose, and we're like, oh no, you know, we're not always very happy about that, right? So I would kind of use the other letting go card more in a positive sense of an active letting go, where this is where something snaps, and we don't always, that's not really about a choice, right? That just kind of happens. So a little bit more tower moment than you choosing to release energy. And of course I can't find it, but that's okay. We just spent all that time breaking up the cards. So here we have the camel. I love that this is here because the camel is in Deste cards, and I quite love it. It is that idea, let's see what they have. Yep, the idea of endurance, and I love that. You know, you can hold all this water to like be able to get through across the desert. So I just love that. I love that card in Deste, so I was happy to see that. Here we have the lightning card for destruction, upheaval, and questions. This is very much the tower card. So in terms of the break, we do have cutting loose, an obligation to let go, and distance. So that we think of that there's a break between the kite and her. So maybe more of a separating feeling, where this is a big shakeup like a tower card perhaps. Some of that kind of overlaps. And I've stopped being good about putting in my light and shadow cards, so it won't be the best. And It won't be the best because I have a showing at the end. Let me just see if I can find a couple. I know this is very, I'm so excited about this because this has been probably one of my longer ones on my wish list. Here we have exclusion, confinement, forced restriction, depression, and punishment. So we can see sort of a bars of a prison cell, bars that we can see through, more bars, and there's a flower, there's a moon, but it's seen through bars. So it's that idea of restriction. Definitely not a good thing. Beautiful construction. Okay, so this is restricting us, and this is growth and building. I love the enterprise, strong foundation, and creation. Here we have a mutual aid, friendship, trust, and support. Somebody is reaching out to somebody for help, and the other person is reaching back and saying, let me help you. So I really love that. Here we have limits, borders, discipline, authority, landmarks, and boundaries. See, this isn't always negative. So I really like there's some sets that are beautiful because, you know, exclusion and being imprisoned is very different than having boundaries. Sometimes having boundaries and limits is a good thing, right? It's about authority, landmarks. It's that energy of like maybe the emperor that's sort of bringing into order from chaos. Here we have the stair, initiation, journeys, connection, world above, connecting above and below. I love that. The beautiful lotus for spiritual evolution, perfection, ascent of the soul, climbing up that stairs to there. And then, oh, the 57th card would be the Fool. So I love that progression, though. If you start from the Spark of Life, which I will no longer be able to find, that's that beginning, and the end is that coming full evolution of your soul. So that's pretty awesome. So I didn't do the best job in the world, but there are a number of shadow cards, quite a few just that I did pick out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. A couple that can be both light and shadow, like the duality, the armor card, even the secret card, and even the fox can be trickery, but it can also be intelligence and being smart. So there's some mixed ones, and a lot of them in the guidebook, she did have a mix of what these could mean depending on the question and depending. She had some keywords that were quite neat to see an overlap. So it's definitely not like, I wouldn't say a 50-50 deck of shadow and light, but I feel like it's between what's in the cards that are kind of neutral. You know, money is a neutral, depending on what cards are with it. So I think that it's actually going to be a beautiful balance of cards in terms of reading, but we shall see. Let me zoom out. Move some stuff out of the way here before I zoom it out. Okay, let's zoom out here. I know I've got a totally blank table because I need to do a grand tableau and I need my whole space. So let's take a look. Well, first let's give it a shuffle and see how it feels. Very bendy. It's definitely a thinner cardstock. I quite like it though. I don't know how that means if it's a good thin cardstock that's going to hold up, but you can see it's quite, well, it's got a beautiful bend to it. Almost feels like a nicer quality of, say, now I got them whopper jawed, of say maybe it has a real bend to it, like Madame Endor's cards. You can really bend it. That can be fine and wonderful to shuffle as long as it's obviously not going to break down over time. Now, I will say that you really shouldn't do what I'm doing right now. You should not riffle shuffle gilded. They shuffle gorgeous. They are meant to rifle shuffle. I'm one of these people who I'm okay with the gilding getting eaten up because you really shouldn't riffle shuffle gold. I will say that my Fountain Tarot silver edging, I riffle shuffle that all the time and it still looks really nice. I mean, you can tell you used it, but it looks really nice. My Gaia Tarot is pretty banged up, but it just looks well used. And so that's kind of, see how they're clumping though? That's kind of from the gilding, and I think that after you shuffle, you know, use it for a while, that should wear down. But if I did it this way, you'd really be getting a lot. So I really do like that I can riffle shuffle it. And this deck in particular with the tea stains, and you can see even, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but even in the black is you know, usage, almost like splots and water paint. It's not a flat computer black, it's like a painted black, and you can see dots and, you know, strokes and things like that. And so it's like inked. And so it's, I think that if the gilding gets worn, it's only going to look actually more beautiful with this deck. So this, I mean, look at that. This is one I'll have to rifle shuffle. I rifle shuffle all my gilding, but I just want to make sure to say to people out there that be warned, if you do that, you will wear down your gilding. But it was, again, this one, I think it will just make it more gorgeous, because that's wonderful to shuffle. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the at this reading here. It's called, this is 4 levels. I don't know, we probably aren't going to get 4 levels here. I should tell you the size. 2, 3. If I overlap them a bit, yeah, I'll just try to overlap them. Size-wise, it's kind of tarot size. Like this is Oracle of Echoes. However, it's fairly tarot sized, which is a little bit shorter than that one, but about the same width. Here's a low Scarabeo. A little bit wider, because low Scarabeo does tend to run narrow. So I would say this is pretty typical tarot size. You know what? I've got a... Here's a Llewellyn, and it's almost exactly, it is exactly Llewellyn tarot size. So there you go in terms of size. It's really nice. I mean, I think it's gorgeous this way. Okay, so let's see. We're going to have a situation. You in front of your situation. And then the second one is going to be a situation, then the second is going to be you, your reflection, so you in front of the situation. And then we're going to have a row that is the shadow, so the past, present, and future in shadow, as well as the past, present, and future as your weapon, something that you can go for. And then it has what you're going to be gained for facing your shadows, and then what is the summary of the situation, or probably what could be used as the outcome card. So I'm going to use, I have somebody that I need to do a reading for anyways, that is a friend of mine, and so I'm going to do, they have some a relationship situation. So let's just see what we can see. I just like to use a real one, and I've already asked permission. Okay. So we're going to put the cards down. We have 1 and we have 2, and these I'm going to really be having to scrunch these to make this work, but we're going to do it anyways. 1. So then we have the next 3 are past, present, and future in shadow. So 1, 2, and 3. We'll see if we can do this. And then the next 3 are armor. So it's kind of past, present, and wishes for the future, actually. So what in your past that you can rely on for a weapon? What in your present you can rely on? So these are your 2 weapons. And then what you will gain, no, your wishes for the future. Not lies, I'm sure. Probably a clarification of lies, right? And then what you will gain from facing your shadows. freedom from him, because that would be a positive thing, right? What are you going to gain from it? So that to me would be reading this in light, which would be getting out of the feeling of imprisonment. And number 10, the summary of your situation, we have the woman, which is herself. That's interesting because we've got this up here. Well, let's just see how it goes. Okay, so at the very top we have the situation, and it's the stairway. That's quite interesting because that is kind of going upward. But it also has, let's look at the keywords because we need to use her thing. Intuition, initiation, spiritual journeys, the world above and below. So we do have that sense of, I feel like what I'm seeing here more intuitively of the situation is that everything's not clear. There's stuff going on at the front, there's stuff going on in the bottom. There's a little bit of a disconnect, right, between here. There's a break in the stairway. Just because I know the particular situation, it makes sense. So that's why I'm saying, like, all these kinds of cards, like, read what you see. This isn't a straight Lenormand. This is an oracle deck, so you can just kind of roll with it. This is the stairway. And so yes, we have that transfer hopefully coming up and out of the dark and into the light, which is what we would like to hope for. But right now there's a bit of an obstacle is what I'm seeing here in the path to going upwards. Her in the situation, is the tower, right? Or the lightning. So she's feeling very upheaval. What's interesting is that one of the keywords for the tower card is questioning. So that makes sense. If you're in a situation where you're really not sure what's going on, you're really not sure where things should go, we definitely have that sense of lots and lots of questions, and that makes perfect sense. Now, in the past here, what in your past is a barrier? And we actually have this hand reaching out. And how powerful is that? This is called, oh, here we got the numbers, which I can't read, 53. So we have the, it was like help card or something like that. Mutual aid card, but that is makes, again, this is something I know quite well. This is that if it's a shadow. So what in the past, right, is a barrier? It's that not reaching out for help. If you're in a situation that you really need to help suss it out, you have a lot of questions, you're really not sure what's going on, you don't really know if you want to go forward, if you want to go backward, you don't know what you want to do. Well, you've got to reach out to friends that can help you and that you can talk about it with. And in the past, this is not something that, you know, if you're that kind of person who won't reach out for help, tries to do things on their own, possibly for good reasons, but it still isn't helpful, and that can be a barrier to her finding out the answers that she wants or coming to the understanding and choices that she needs to make. So that's really powerful in that position. The second one is about what in your present is a barrier. And here is interesting because we have pure love, right? So this idea of love being a barrier. So love, of course, and the purity of love. This is number 9. No, I can't read. Number 3. I will say the font and the numbers is a little bit difficult to read. However, I can't see very well, and I don't have my reading glasses on. So that's not a real fair assessment. I can see it better with my, I just put them on. But I do find the font slightly difficult to read for the number. So that's 53. No, I'm sorry, we're going on to the other one. That is actually a 3. See, look at that. Pure love. I knew it was pure love, though. Absolute trust. So that is a problem, right? So what is a barrier in the present? If we have absolute trust, it's a barrier. We're looking at that card in shadow. And the problem is that she doesn't have absolute trust, for sure. And that's 100% spot on. The third position is your fears for the future or your shadows. And look at, we have the 12 card, which is the refuge, a return to self, and a chosen isolation. So again, if that's in shadow and that's a fear, she's afraid of returning to self, returning to being alone, returning to being on her own. That sense of not choosing to be isolation, but being forced into isolation but really it is is coming to her choice. I mean, obviously I'm going to talk to her more, but it is a choice, but it is obviously a painful choosing to come back, to have to choose to say, you know what, I need to start walking this road on my own. This relationship's not going to work for me. So that would be the biggest fear, is that return to self and that return to isolation, and having to make that decision. So really powerful, powerful cards. Down in the next row, we have number 6 being, what in your past can you rely on? Now, isn't that interesting? Because now we have a shadow card in a something that we can rely on. So in a positive. So we like to read we have to read the shadow in light. So we have that in here. This is that idea of infertility. It's a loss. 2 things I would read this in, because I know the situation, I know the person. I can say that in her past, how is this? She's been able to deal with loss. She's able to deal with difficult times. If she chooses to go into a place of stepping back into self and out of the relationship, is something that she is going to be able to handle. So I can read it that way. You can also kind of revert it. So okay, if in shadow it's light, it's loss, in light it's gain. That out of loss comes gain. That even though it looks like in the moment that you're losing everything, there is something that is going to grow out of that. Does that make sense? I really love it when shadow cards come in light positions and light cards come in shadow positions. It's a lot of fun to really think about how that works. And it's one of the reasons I love positions. The second card at the bottom is what in your present that you can rely on. And here we have number 45, which is the gift. And this is about happiness and sharing. It's a little bit like 3 of cups. It's celebration, but it's a shared celebration. So again, that's that reach out. In the past, she's not good at reaching out and asking for help and saying, you know what, I'm having a really hard time. Can we just go out and get some dinner and talk? Those kinds of just reaching out. And so what is a weapon that can help her right now is to do that. So it both says, you know what, this is a problem. You don't do this. Now I'm saying this is what you should be doing. So I love that connection there in those cards. This one is so interesting because this is the 8th card is wishes for the future, and the card is lies. And so obviously you're going to not read that as she wishes for lies. I would read that as what she hopes for is that those lies, because if the problem is not having trust in the relationship, she's hoping, her wish and her, maybe, it's those desire is for that not to be the case, for what she's thinking and what she's feeling, to not be true. If that makes sense. Even when we know sometimes that it's time, it's time to move on and things are just not working out. We know at a very deep level, we still hope that somehow we're wrong. Of course, that is what often keeps us in situations that we shouldn't be staying in, because we just keep hoping that we're going to be proven wrong. And most of the time, I think our instincts are right. So we have that very powerful reading here. Yeah. So the last 2 is what will you gain by facing your shadows? Again, getting out of this prison, however it works out, whatever she decides to do, whatever way she moves forward, if she faces the situation, she's going to find her way out of being stuck in this limbo state of just not knowing what's going on, not really trusting herself, not really trusting the situation. She will, no matter what, no matter if it's going to be a difficult thing that she's going to go into, because she's going to have to step back into self, and let go of the relationship, or she moves forward and does the work that needs to do to clarify things and move forward. No matter what, just getting out of this limbo phase is going to get her out of feeling trapped and imprisoned. So that's really good. And then as a summary, it just says summary of your situation. It comes to the woman card. And I really love this in terms of this reading, because this brings it back to self, simply because she is a woman. So I would use that as sort of a significator card. You could say it all comes down to you. It all comes down to trusting yourself, listening to yourself. You are the one who is going to have to kind of suss things out and make those decisions and make those choices, because it is We can't rely on anybody to make us happy. We can't rely on anybody else, including readings or cards or people, to help us make the decisions that we know the answers. It can help us, help us kind of sort things out. But in the end, it's on ourselves. We have to make those choices and decisions. So really, really powerful first reading there. And just based off of this, A, I like this spread, and B, just the way that these cards are working in this particular situation are really spot on and beautifully, powerfully in place. So yeah, 2 thumbs up for a first reading, even though it's a difficult one. But it's definitely, in terms of reading experience, very powerful and fantastic. So this has been a look at the gorgeous L'Oracle des Reflets. I don't know if that's Oracle of Reflections or Reflections Oracle. There was some question as how you would literally translate that in English, but I know, Oracle of Reflection or Reflection Oracle to me would say the same thing. So that's okay. I will put a link to the description box below to her website, because obviously you can't find this on Amazon or anything like that. So that you have that, as well as a link to the video showing her making the paper. It's just really amazing process. And like I said, it's not, I believe the whole thing is in French without English subtitles, but I really recommend watching it anyways if you're considering getting this deck, because it's really cool to see how artistically how the process was.